Wednesday, the 28th of March. This is your Business Morning. Welcome to our viewers here in Nigeria and around the world. This is your show. I am Bosin Amofai. Let's get the show started. Tuesday was all about Nigeria's budget 2019. So the journey continues first in Abuja, where the Senate, the upper house of legislature, passed the budget papers for the second reading, even as the Senate ends debate on the general principles of the executive's 8.83 trillion naira spending proposals. And that will continue today and in the days ahead. The journey into the finalizing budget 2019 is currently underway. Meantime, the House of Reps also yesterday adjourned work on the medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper. It's called the MTEF FSP. That will be until April the 2nd. Meantime, the House of Reps, the lower house of legislature, continues work on the budget 2019 and getting all MDAs heads ready to step forward and defend their proposals in the 2019 8.83 trillion naira appropriations, which the President Muhammadu Buhari presented to both houses last year. Meantime, here in Lagos, Nigeria's economic and financial epicenter, the Securities and Exchange Commission holds a budget 2019 seminar with experts expressing their views on how the appropriations can stimulate the economy and the importance of the securities market in getting the budget work. We hear some views on that later on the program. You want to stick around for that. Meantime, as we always say, you need to listen very carefully to this. Nigeria's consumption tax, also known as value-added tax or VAT, may go up by 50% to 7.25% from the current level of 5% by the end or before the end of 2019. Nigeria's current VAT at 5% has been widely criticized as one of the lowest in the world by the International Monetary Fund and other agencies. The Honorable Minister in charge of Budget and National Planning, Udo Udoma, and the head of the Inland Revenue Service, Babatunde Fowler, yesterday told Nigerians to prepare for the VAT increase by the end of this year. Meantime, they say that company income tax and petroleum profit tax would also go up in the year 2019. Nigeria is looking to fund the new higher minimum wage of 30,000 naira, which the National Assembly ratified on Tuesday. That's some stories making headlines from the world of business. Let's get the markets into the conversation. Temple Ashaji is looking at how the stock market remained lackluster. The consumer goods index dragged the market, spooked the 2.2% gain by the banking stocks on Tuesday. But the unlisted securities market, a much smaller NESD, rallied nearly 1.5% and a very small volume of transactions. That's part of the Tuesday trading day, and we're unpacking that for you in more details. Temple Ashaji, our business correspondent, live to us from the Nigerian Stock Exchange, where our studio is in downtown Lagos. Temple, good morning. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Bosin. Thanks for giving us an opportunity right here in the market, here in the Club Nigerian Stock Exchange, where our studio is.
Yes.
Well, so the market was down yesterday some 0.14%. We lost some 16.06 billion naira in terms of what we used to have in the equity capitalization, as that's part of the market actually closed at 11.591 trillion naira. So we saw months to date performance trimming down to 2.01%. We saw year-to-date performance also reducing to 1.11%. And of course, yesterday was the fourth consecutive trading session of losses. Of course, that's those losses can actually be attributed to the sell-off that we saw on large-cap consumer goods stocks. Talk about the likes of Nigerian breweries, Nestle, Dangote Flour, the Dangote Sugar were all in losses yesterday, and all of that outweighed the performance or positive contribution that the banking sector would have brought to the market. But generally, the market breadth was almost flat, but we had 17 gainers as against 18 losers. And incidentally, the top gainer was from the consumer goods segment of the market. I'm talking about MC Nichols, while Presco, which is the top loser, bills yesterday, down some 9.33%. It's from the, of course, the agri subsector of the market. But if you look at the activity level of the markets, it was positive. We saw some 39% increase in terms of the volume of transactions. We saw some 286.89 million units of shares valued at 3.09 billion naira, which is a 61% increase in activity level. And the deal for yesterday was almost 4,000, but precisely 3,924. Top trade yesterday was from Axis Bank. Axis Bank has continued to gain consistently in the past few sessions. 2 days ago, the same Axis Bank actually formalized the green bonds deal that has been in the works for some time now. Its book building took place between February and, of course, the early part of March. Of course, that now led to funding of commitments. Then 2 days ago, we saw that the bank actually formalized the whole 15 billion naira bond program. So, of course, we also got the central bank and SEC's approval for it to also acquire the assets and, of course, everything about Diamond Bank. So all of these have actually been driving up the performance of Axis Bank in recent time. But sectorally, the banking sector was up some 208 basis points. FCMB gained. Fidelity Bank, after losing some 9% in 6 straight sessions yesterday, was able to rise some 4.74%. Wema Bank was also up some 4.23%. Guarantee Trust Bank and, of course, Axis Bank again. You know, all of these companies actually maintained some gains. A couple of banking names were actually in losses yesterday, but not as much as these banks that we saw gaining and raking in or revving up the indices of the banking segment of the market. But the consumer goods segment of the market was down almost 2%. Nigerian breweries dipped very largely, 6.67%. Dangote Flour down, Nestle down 1.19%, PZ down 1.36%, and of course 0.26% decline in this in USC. The industrial goods segment of the market, we saw a bit of gains in First Aluminium, but that wasn't enough to push up the indices of that sector, as Dangote Cement shed some 0.26%. In terms of insurance segment, Sovereign Insurance was down 8.7%. NEM Insurance lost some 2.13%, in spite of the fact that Lasaco Insurance did some 3.33%. Oil and gas, we saw just one name making some gains there, and that's 11 PLC, which used to be known as Mobile PLC. Of course, this is one company that also has dividends proposed to investors, but was up yesterday some 2.41%. After we saw a bit of gains on that particular count. And this, of course, takes us to the energy segment of the market. If you look at the tables all through, it was only 11 PLC that had some change in terms of share price, and it was up some 2.41% after some 18,372 units of that company's shares were traded yesterday. For the NASDOTC, which is the unlisted securities market, we saw an increase of 1.24% in the indices, up to 747.33 points. Market capitalization closed at 536.91 billion naira, with a volume of 63,096, valued at 1.905 million naira. If we take a look at the debt market was a bit cold yesterday, relatively flat. We saw bonds markets trading quietly, slight sell pressure on the 2028 security. Number one on our radar here is 23rd of February 2028, which got priced at 99 naira 56 kobo, and we saw some 16 deals there, explaining the sell side that we saw more on that particular side of the market yesterday. Generally, yields compressed on 3 basis points on average, and of course that follows the decline in the yields that we saw across board. But going forward, next week we do expect the DMO to also raise 100 billion naira worth of bonds in an auction that will be holding on the 27th of March this month. But if you take a look at the Treasury bills segment of the market, T-bills was also a bit quiet. Yields traded slightly higher following the CBN's announcement of an OMO auction, which was oversubscribed by 105%, and of course that led to some kind of stop rate cuts. We saw just 93 day to maturity and 205 DTM on offer yesterday, but the rates were really reduced. Bosun.
Yes, Temple is quite a very busy day at the what you call the Treasury bills market. The central bank has jumped into the fray. All of this happening, like you rightly put it before, next week's, after MPC, when the DMO is doing the March auctions. But again, the big story, which I'm sure with Adedayo Bakare from Afrinvest, the conversation will be around the earnings that is on the street. Access Bank is in the news, not just for its earnings, but also for the annual shareholders meeting just concluded, and now the green bond, which the regulators are pouring over and all of that. So there's a big story there, a number of earnings there. But I was surprised that this is March, middle of March already, we're entering the third week in March, and these earnings are not coming as fast and furious as we'll expect them. Temple, isn't it? Even in the oil and gas sector, with the exception of Seplat, also we haven't heard much from those folks at all. Insurance folks are still hanging out there. A number of these companies are telling the stock exchange by way of reporting requirements that, look, we're holding our board of directors meeting, we're postponing those earnings releases, and I'm beginning to ask what exactly is going on down there. Maybe I'm going to leave you and Adedayo from Afrinvest, who is an investment analyst, to try and unpack that for us. I'm going to be listening in from here. Temple, over to you.
Correct, Bosin. Correct, Bosin. Thank you for setting the context for us. Adedayo Bakare, thanks a great deal for joining us here in the stock market, actually, which is where all of the securities that Bosin has just described actually trade. So lately we've been seeing, as opposed to what we used to see historically, we by now would have seen a lot of earnings coming into the market. We'll see the market share prices rising due to traders buying on a lot of these securities that would have release their results. But what exactly would you say is happening now? From the banking side of things, I'm not sure up to 5 banks have actually released their earnings, or maybe just 5 so far, out of a whole lot of them that we have listed here.
Absolutely. Earnings releases seems to be delayed a bit for the full year 2018 results. For banks, like you mentioned, we have just about 5 banks that have published. That's tier 1 names such as GTB, you have UBA, you have Access Bank, and you have Zenith Bank. And tier 2 names, we only have Stanbic. That's published results, so there are a whole lot of banks that are yet to publish. This holds true for other segments of the market. If you look at the insurance market, insurance sector, the consumer goods sector, for instance, I think only just about 1 or 2 names have listed in the insurance sector. In the consumer goods sector, the big names we've seen is Nigerian Breweries and also Nestle. So for so many of players in the, say, personal care segment, for instance, we've not seen the full year 2018 results. Now, there's no definitive reason. One can say, a lot of activities in the first quarter around, the elections and everything could have hampered, 1 or 2 processes, that needs to be done to publish those results. And but of course, given the trends we've seen in the past, we have some suspicions. One of that is the fact that audits, for instance, companies are required to, they're mandated to publish audited accounts, full year accounts. So if they have, any kind of issue or delay around their audits, then you expect their results to be delayed. However, we must note that they still have 90 days ending, the 31st of March to publish these results. So towards the end of March, we should see, more results come in. For companies who will delay beyond, the March 31st deadline, then they should send notice to the exchange.
So you are really not of the view that the election was part of the reasons why some of these companies are deliberately delaying the announcement of their earnings?
Well, we can't say it's deliberate because, a lot of activities happened, and even in companies and businesses were affected. The postponement of the elections and all those issues are surrounding it. So that could be a part. Now, audits, procedures could be a part. If there's slow conclusion of audits, that could be a reason. There are also some industries, banking especially, and banking and insurance, very regulated sectors. So companies here are required to send, the results to the regulator, primary regulator, NICOM for insurance business, CBN for the banking business. So if there's a bit of a delay around with these regulators, it will also affect, publishing of the results. There's also the case that the Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria, for instance, for audits where audits have been concluded and the auditors have issued an opinion and the opinion is qualified. Maybe there are issues around the financial statements. Then FRCN, the results has to go to FRCN, and it is when they are done with checking the results and checking the books that you have them published on the exchange. So there are various reasons that could have led to the delay in results, but we are waiting till at least the final week in March before we really know the issues.
Okay, well, it's good to know that at least the food giants don't have to actually report to NAFDAC first. So, of course, because that is their primary regulator, one way or the other. But moving on, we've seen so much of delayed filings as well, especially in the insurance segments of the markets. Do you think the whole tier-based recapitalization exercise that was meant to happen sometimes last year could actually be a factor to this delay as well?
Well, I don't think so, because when they when I think NICOM released that, there was a lot of contention around it, around the new tier-based capitalization for insurance business, and I think it was delayed up to a point for most of the year. So really, there has been no progress on that front. So we do not expect that had any kind of material impact on whether they should publish the results early or now. Like I mentioned before, insurance is also one where they have to send their reports to NICOM. So in a case where they've sent the reports to NICOM and NICOM has not attended to the results on time, or has not published or has not done its review on time, then that could be responsible for the delay. Because if you see from what we've seen, I think only just about 1 name or 2 names have published in the insurance sector. So that means it's something that is general to that sector. So it's plausible that it's coming from the regulator.
From the immediate regulator. Yeah. After all, some of them actually still have representatives from NICOM on their boards. Talk about the likes of Gold Link Insurance. But then moving on, you talked about the 90 days post Q1, but then we're also supposed to have expectations in terms of results for Q1 from these companies. Don't you see that puts in so much of pressure on these companies and the audit side of things for them?
Yes, absolutely. But the good thing about Q1 results is they're not going to audit Q1 results.
Okay.
So they audit, just the half-year reports. That's ending June, then H2. So the good thing for them is once they resolve, all the issues around maybe filing of the annual report is concluded, then for Q1 they can publish that even faster, because they don't need to audit those accounts.
So quite a number of dividends have been paid and or have been proposed, yet to be declared as AGM, except that of Zenith Bank, which I think was the first AGM so far this year. Access Bank actually had EGM, an extraordinary general meeting, in view of the merger and acquisition with Diamond Bank. But so that's just 25 kobo being paid. How disappointing was that for investors, especially for those of you who are fund managers?
For Access Bank?
Exactly.
Okay, for Access Bank, it was, obviously a lot of people have had concerns, regarding the merger. So basically, the concerns has been around, with all the troubles, Diamond Bank has, a very large loan book, which is not performing. I think towards the end of the year, we had about 40% of the loan book was not performing, and that means if you are acquiring such a bank, that means you need to clean the books, and you'll be spending a lot of money to do that. So we think that was what actually influenced the decision to pay the dividend that was poor compared to what we had in the previous years, because they will need to commit a lot of capital to cleaning the books and to take benefits from the merger with Diamond Bank. Now, the good thing about it is by April, we should have clarity on the statements, the combined statements of both entities. Okay. So through that lens, we can be able to understand how the company will progress going forward. But currently, they are going to need a lot of capital, so it really doesn't make any sense for them to pay out a lot of dividends. Okay. That said, the published reports for full year 2018 was outstanding. Right. Gross earnings expanded by double digits, interest income expanded by double digits. I have a very strong growth in ROE, in profitability and ROE. So the current state of things is good, but the worry is that post-merger, what will be the value, being given to shareholders, and that is the main concern for us.
Okay, of course, there are different concerns around the different factors responsible for a whole lot of the dividends that have been proposed and declared. You see some companies actually proposing, and yet you have a lot of investors still selling down, or basically reducing their holdings in a lot of these companies. Well, Adedayo Bakari, thanks a great deal for your insight on all of these dividends and, of course, filings of a lot of the companies, even though some of them are delayed. Thanks a great deal for your time. Back to you, Bosun.
Yeah, Tempo, thank you for that very robust conversation and giving some insight into what's going on with the earnings we have and some of the delayed filings. But when we come back after the break, Tempo will stick around there to give us the first call on today's trading day later on the program. But when we return, we're looking at getting some insight into budget 2019, the political discussions and all of the crunching the numbers in Abuja yesterday. But here in Lagos is how the market perceives the budget. In particular, how do we finance it and how does it benefit your investment portfolio? All of that in 2.